I just want to give a quick disclaimer at the beginning of this video. Hi, this is Editing Melissa here. I am sorry for the noise in the background of this particular video. I am stitching in an outdoor shed, which is now my office, in July in Tennessee. And so I do have an air conditioning unit going in the background. I will try in the future to turn it off just for the purpose of making a video. But as you can imagine, in the afternoon, it is super hot. So I do have that air conditioning unit going, and I'm sorry for that background noise. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on this sand dollar zipper bag. Now the cool thing about this tutorial is that you could use this as a video tutorial for any of the round zipper bags that I have in my shop at designsbylittlebee.com, and probably a lot of other digitizers round zipper bags too. The steps are all the same, whether you're making a baseball, a basketball, a happy face, anything that has a circular shape, you can use this tutorial for. But instead of stitching the details for a sand dollar, obviously you'll stitch the details that came with your style of zipper bag. Please see the instructions for the zipper bag you're stitching to see what size fabrics you need, what zipper you need, etc. In my opinion, tearaway or cutaway stabilizer doesn't really matter. I like to use cutaway because it's usually, in my experience, the cutaway that I have is a lot less crinkly. It's softer, and I like that to be inside my zipper bag rather than the crinkly paper-like tearaway stabilizer that I use. First, you hoop your stabilizer and then stitch out the placement for your zipper bag. Next, place your zipper between these railroad track lines that show you where to put your zipper, and tape it down or pin it down at the edges, and then stitch the tack down to tack this zipper down to its permanent place. Now you can see that I've got my zipper tacked down. I removed my hoop from the machine and I'm going to turn it over. It starts stitching the details for the sand dollar on the bottom of the circle. So I'm going to grab my lining piece, and I'm using a black and white polka dot, and here's where it's going to end up, on the bottom inside for the lining. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to line up the bottom of one of the longer edges with, oh, let's do the one that's straighter. I'm going to line that up with the bottom of my zipper. Okay, it looks like it's on the wrong side of the project and upside down. It's not. It needs to stay here. So I'm going to pick my hoop up and I'm going to pin this in place from the front so that there's no sharp needles on the bottom of my hoop, and then I'll be right back. Your next step is to replace your hoop and place your front bottom piece of fabric to mirror that lining fabric that you just placed. So I've got it right side fabric down with a long edge lined up with the bottom of my zipper. And the next step will tack down the lining and the front bottom fabric against the zipper right here. Now you can see that your two pieces of fabric for the bottom, the outer and the lining, are both tacked into place with this stitch right here. You're going to take the front piece only and you're going to flip it over that line and pin down. The next step will be top stitching. It may be different depending on which circular bag you are stitching, but it will be a top stitching, and that is either to give detail or to baste this piece down for the details on the inside, or maybe both. One thing I do want to mention as you move forward with these steps is that you can see right here that my lining piece is still out of the way underneath my hoop. As you're manipulating the hoop and pinning down fabrics and flipping over fabrics, make sure that that lining piece stays out of the way for now. Okay, here's the top stitching for this particular bag, the sand dollar. And next you can see it's going to stitch out the detail of the outside of the sand dollar and some of the inner details. So I'm going to go ahead and do those now. Now the details of the bottom half of my zipper bag are done, and I'm going to take this liner piece that has been out of the way this whole time, and now I'm going to flip it over that tack down line into its permanent home. Okay, now it's down here. And I'm going to pin that again from the front, and that will stay there while we do the other half of our zipper bag. I removed my hoop so you can really see what I meant by flip the liner over and pin it into place. I just used the pins that I was using for the front half of my bag. And now that lining piece is going to stay there for the remainder of our design. Because we're going to do the same thing we just did for this piece, but we're going to do it for the top. So here's where it's going to end up. It's going to look like that. So we need to flip it and line it up now with the top of that zipper. And you're going to pin this lining piece into place. This is the back of my hoop. And then you're going to put your hoop back on your machine, and you're going to do the same thing with the front piece. Here is my front piece for the top half of my bag, upside down or right side down, lined up with the top now of my zipper. So now the steps are going to be the exact same for this side of the bag as they were for the bottom. It's going to stitch a tack down here to sandwich these fabrics together. Then I'm going to flip the top piece over. I'm going to stitch my the top stitching around it, and then I'm going to stitch the details of that part of the bag, whatever that may be. For this one, it's the other half of the sand dollar, all the while keeping that lining piece out of the way underneath your hoop. We now have that tack down stitch. Now I'm going to flip this top piece over. I'm going to pin it on both sides. Make sure that the lining piece is still underneath my hoop and out of the way and not wrinkled or folded. And then I'm going to stitch the top stitching and the details for the rest of the sand dollar. Now the details for the other half of our zipper bag are done. So we're going to do the same thing we did on the last half. We're going to grab that lining piece from the bottom of our hoop. We're going to flip it over that tack down line to where it is now mirroring the front piece, and I'm going to use these same pins that I used for the front, and I'm going to pin that lining piece up into its permanent home. At this point, the back of your hoop should look like this. We're not going to do any more manipulating of the lining pieces, so they should be pinned back out of the way in their permanent homes. You can now replace your hoop onto the machine, and you're going to I'm doing this with one hand. Next time, I will find my tripod before I make the next video, I promise. This is a little ridiculous. So the next thing you're going to do before you move on is you're going to bring your zipper pull from the end into the middle of your design. Very, very important. If you don't do this, you're going to continue and you're going to stitch the zipper pull right outside of your bag. And that is fixable, but it's kind of complicated and tedious. So you can't forget to move your zipper pull into the center part of your design. And the next steps are going to be placement and tack down for a ribbon loop if you're using that. What you need to remember about a ribbon loop is that it needs to go what looks like inside out. You fold it in half, wrong sides together if there is a wrong side. And then you place it with the folded edge inside your bag. Do you see that? The folded edge is inside, the raw sides are outside. When you turn your zipper bag inside out, this loop will pop out. So this looks kind of like it's backwards, but it is not. The folded edge needs to go inside the design. And then you can tack that down. It's time for the last two steps of our zipper bag on the machine. You're going to take your back piece. This is, if you flip your bag over, this is what's on the back. It probably matches the front fabric that you're using. And you're going to place it right side down to cover this entire project. Okay? You just need to make sure you're covering the entire project so far. You can pin that down, and then it will stitch a circle all the way around the bag. Now that piece is stitched down, I'm going to remove my hoop and flip this over. Okay, this is now the back of my hoop. You can see those lining pieces are still where they've been this whole time. And now you're going to take the back lining piece and you're going to place it right side down, again to cover this whole project. I'm going to pin it in place again from the front. I'm just going to use those same pins I've been using the whole time, and then I'm going to replace my hoop and stitch the final machine step. Now you can see that there's one step left on your machine. This step right here, you don't need to stitch it. If you do, it's not the end of the world. It'll just give you a little line on your project. That step is only to keep our single needle friends from having their needle carriage move back to the center of the design and like catch on the zipper or screw up their project in any way. So you don't have to stitch it. If you do, it's just going to give you a line right there. If you accidentally do it, it's no big deal. But our machine work is done. So now, one of the most important steps of in the hoop embroidery, before you unhoop your project, I want you to remove your hoop from the machine and make sure that the back looks correct. There we go. You'll see that it's got a circle and just a small space left open for turning your project right side out. Before you unhoop your project, always check the front and back of your hoop to make sure that there are no wrinkles or folds in your fabric, because you can still fix them while they're in the hoop, but when you take them out of the hoop, it's going to be a really tedious process to fix those. Now you can see that you've got your project removed from the hoop. Be sure to remove any pins. I'm bad about, oh, there's one right now. See, I was just saying, I'm bad about leaving pins in my project and then stabbing myself in the fingers when I'm turning my project. And there's another one. Yep, I missed two of them. There we go. So be sure to feel around your project and make sure you don't have any pins before you start cutting or manipulating the bag in this way. So now you're going to trim around the outside of the lining side of your zipper bag. I want you to have the lining side up, and here's why. You need to leave a little tab right here to close up your bag. So you want to see this side of the project. The other side doesn't have a hole to show you. So you want to hold this side up, and using your scissors nice and straight, you want to trim around the circle and leave a tab for ease of closing your bag up. Now here's what I mean by leave a tab. See? And I left it at that hole for turning. So now you're going to utilize that hole that you just trimmed around. You find the layer that is between the two lining pieces. It's the only one that's open, that is not sealed shut with a stitch. And you're going to carefully and patiently turn your zipper bag, well, inside out, but kind of right side out, but kind of inside out. You just need to push the whole bag in through that hole. Okay, now since this one's round, it's easy to push out the edges. You just run your finger along the inside of the circle and bam. Now you need to push in and close this tab. You need to push the edges in. Now, you can do that with a hand stitch. You can get your needle and thread and you can stitch this together. Or you can use what I use, which is this Fabric Fuse permanent double-sided fabric tape. What you do is you push your sides of the tab in. Now this one's a little tricky because it is a circle. So it's not like a square where it's just a flat edge. That's a lot easier. But what I'm going to do is I have two pieces of my Fabric Fuse tape, two short kind of pieces. I put one on either side because this isn't, you know, the tape isn't curved. So I put one on each side to kind of mimic a curved effect. Then I'm going to push that in, push that tab in, push the other side in. Okay, this is kind of how it should look permanently. Then I'm going to carefully peel the backing of the tape off of one side and squeeze that where it should go. Then I'm going to carefully remove the backing of the other side hard to show this, not like close up, but I mean, it's double-sided tape. Just take your time and be patient. I have small hands and small fingers, and even so, it's hard for me too. Okay, so got that piece of backing off, and I squish. There you go. Okay, so now I have sealed up that, and look, I did a pretty good job at the roundness of that. Another thing you need to keep in mind is that this is the inside of your bag, so this is not the finished product. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. Just do as well as you can. Now you need to get that stabilizer out from behind your zipper. This is another thing to do carefully and patiently. If you do use cutaway for your zipper bags, this is where that comes in handy. I mean, tear away, because all you have to do is tear it away from your zipper. If you use cutaway, you do have to cut it. So be patient and don't cut your zipper or your fabric. See how I'm just sliding my scissors down that cutaway carefully. There's the end. I'm gonna trim the end. See? I'm just carefully gliding my scissors right along the edge of the fabric, very carefully. Okay, now I've got that piece of stabilizer out from behind the zipper. If you would like to, and I do like to, I like to press my bag at this step. Just press both sides to get the lining pieces nice and pressed before I flip it inside out. I'm not going to do it right now, but I do like to do that. So now you're going to stick your finger inside the bag and find that zipper pull and wiggle it open. Might take a little bit of manipulating. There you go. Now, once that's done, you can simply flip your bag now right side out through that zipper. Probably the easiest part of the whole project. There you go. And now you can see that your ribbon loop is out and the tab is ready for inserting, for using a split ring or piece of hardware for making a key fob. And that's it. That's your zipper bag. I hope this tutorial has demystified the process of making a round zipper bag. You can find this and other great embroidery projects at designsbylittlebee.com. I'll see you in the next video, and I'll chat with you in the group.